You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Data Center Therapy, a podcast from IVOXY Consulting that talks all things IT, hopefully with a healthy dose of empathy, although sometimes we even have to question ourselves. Yeah. I'm your host, Matt Yette. I'm riding solo from a host standpoint today. Mr. Cozzolino is out on a sailboat. That means that we may or may not hear from Mr. Cozzolino again, but we hope. But everything's all up in the ether right now as far as how Cozzo's status is going. So hopefully he's having a good time. But I am joined with my two friends and colleagues, Mr. Ryan Grelck and Aaron Hagman. How are you doing, gents?
Morning, Matt.
Hey, how's it going,
Good
Matt?
morning.
Yeah, doing great.
Good. Ryan, you get a little bit of a hot streak going. I think this is 2 in a row for you that we've had you on.
It is, huh? Yeah. Yep.
Yep. You keep that mustache trimmed since now you're going to be the face of the podcast guest scene.
I didn't shave, so well.
I think we're all.
We're all just
right now.
We're in IT. It happens whenever it happens.
Shower's not optional, but shaving, yes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, of course. And varying levels of facial hair it's stylish.
Yep.
Right. What a world. Aaron, it's good. Have you been on a podcast yet?
I haven't yet. No, this is my first experience on the old podcast. So I've listened to it for years, actually, on and off.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, why not?
Would you have any critiques up to this point now that you're going to be a participant?
It's always entertaining and sometimes funny, often funny, but it's always entertaining and good content. So I've always enjoyed it.
That is good to hear. Yes. Well, it's good to have you on. This is going to be a good one because, again, it's your first time through. Ryan's a little more comfortable with it, but we're talking about something that both you folks are very involved with currently. And it's basically talking about our Intune class, right? I guess Intune in the educational class around it. Is that really kind of what you gents have been diving into a lot recently?
Yeah. Azure, all the things. EUC, that is. Yeah. Because Azure's, huge, right? So.
Give me a little bit of that. So we hear EUC and Azure thrown around. So, and this kind of goes back to cloud, right? Mm-hmm. And I, even though M365, and when I say M365, it's all these definitions. Mm-hmm. M365 is, when I talk about it, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, right? I guess that's usually what most people, I mean a million things, but then some people say Azure and they mean that too, or they're including that, or when I think Azure, I think either running Azure VMs or consuming SQL instances or, native microservices, things like that. So when you say Azure, all the things, what do you mean? And there's no wrong answers here.
Yeah, so like in the EUC, so EUC is end user computing. So this is all about, delivering applications and services to your end user, even delivering devices through Azure that we could just set it up so that we ship a device to an end user and it's pre-configured. All they have to do is log in with their account. They'll get all the updates, get all the applications that they need downloaded to that device, all from the cloud, using Microsoft Intune, which is an additional SKU cost, but most every company is going to be using some kind of management tool like that.
And a lot of the time, they already have that SKU in their mix with their E3, E5, Business Premium, whatever they have. So a lot of these features that are available, people don't even know they have. So it's fun to have that first conversation and ask them, hey, what are you doing with your devices over there? Or, what happens when someone takes a laptop home? Oh, well, we just, set it to update and away it goes, and off in infamy it lives. And, showing them how to use Intune and teaching them how easy it is to set it up and get it going so that, it can almost be a very light touch in the end of management as a whole. Really makes it easier for the IT department to manage that remote device.
Yeah, and there are some prerequisites that need to be met, such as having, Azure Active Directory or Entra, as it's now known.
Good catch.
So that all of your user accounts are accessible via the cloud. So,
is this Is Intune basically the new SCCM? Like, true, is that do you see that, whether announced or otherwise, writing on the wall, is this going to be the
Yes.
environment management and deployment platform going forward?
Yeah, so from what I've been seeing, Microsoft wants this to replace the on-premise configuration manager tool. So this will eventually replace on-prem. There may be some kind of connector if you're maybe a site that has no internet access. You'll still need to have something, right?
Sure.
Intune won't be a great fit
and I
for
think
that.
any site without internet access, I don't know how much cloud plays in that, right? I mean,
Right.
that's a
Exactly.
reality in
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got the co-management piece too. So a lot of places have made big investments in SCCM suite for on-premise patching or just patching in general in the past, and so now you can actually connect the on-premise SCCM with Intune using a co-management, and you can actually do some little sliders in there and change it from on-prem to pilot to to cloud, so you can actually transition from SCCM to Intune. It's not as simple as just slider, but you can.
The unsolvable problem.
Yeah.
How do I do patch management?
Yeah.
I've been hearing that since
Yeah.
I got into IT, before I got into IT, and it doesn't feel like anybody's really just fixed it.
No.
No.
It's getting better, but it's takes a while.
Yeah, it does have
Kind of like speech recognition, right? It's like, I remember Dragon Naturally Speaking in like 1995 with those plastic boom mics that come with, and it's like 95% accurate, and now it's 97% accurate, and I'm still over here pulling my head out because Siri is god awful. So we're making progress, though, right? Quote unquote, technically better than we were yesterday.
Or it starts trying to help you when you're not even talking to it, and you're like, what are you doing?
I like I'm talking with my wife and I hear from the corner. And I say,
How did I
"Throw
trigger
something
it?
at
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't put that stink on Intune, right? Dragon Naturally Speaking in Siri. Sorry about that.
No, but we can probably deploy Dragon Naturally Speaking maybe
Oh,
with
yeah.
Intune. So you can do third-party apps, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean-
Ryan, I was going to ask, like, why Intune, but you kind of gave a good picture of that when you were saying, hey, look, I mean, think about onboarding a new employee, especially in a world that employee might not be around to the office ever. Right? So you picture the old days of the stacks of laptops behind you, and that's kind of old-fashioned.
Yeah, you have a mobile sales team. They're never in the office. They're always traveling, right? This is a perfect use case for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to get out over our skis, but it sounds like between you two, you may have been cooking stuff up that IVOXY will be able to help you down the road in terms of this as well, quite possibly, with regards to, Aaron used the nice word, co-management, in that your two expertises combined, I think, is going to put us in a position to be able to assist with those kind of processes down the road as well.
yeah, I think besides teaching people about Intune and how to use it and what it can do, it opens their eyes to what more it can do, and it goes down the slippery stuff of, oh wow, we can do that. One of the questions we always get asked in the class is, well, that's great, I have a laptop joined to Azure AD and it's managed by Intune, but when the user comes into the office, what happens? Can they access anything? Well, they can, because if AD Connect is set up right with single sign-on, you actually get that login token in your Azure AD login to be able to access domain resources. So you can still access file shares and printers with that Azure AD joined laptop, provided AD Connect is set up and requirements are met. But it really does work. You come in, plug in the network, log in, you should have access to stuff. So it's fun to teach.
Would that work? Let's say you go to the office, the internet's down. That still would work by way of that Azure AD Connect sync?
If the internet's down, you wouldn't be able to get your PRT, your primary refresh token. So I don't think it would work if the internet was down, because you wouldn't get that updated token. It might be cached, but I couldn't.
It's interesting, the whole on-premise Active Directory versus Azure AD, and how they're certainly a lot less siloed than they used to be, right? But it's basically like Microsoft built the identity framework for Azure AD from scratch, not beholding themselves to the limitations of on-premise Active Directory or full fat AD, right? And now they're kind of pulling it back to somehow have them, talking correctly with, for 365 migrations. It's been a thing forever, but it's all dependent on that AD Connect synchronization tool from one of your DCs typically.
Yep.
So hybrid work, you're seeing an awful lot of that out there. And like you said, Ryan, remote sales teams, all of that. Do you see, I mean, is this something that they need to come in at all? Like that was one of the things, like think of a VPN, right? But you're in the old way, or some more traditional way. But what happens if there's a password expiration or the token expires, but they can't get on the VPN and authenticate? Does this alleviate a lot of that? Does this make this a more simpler, straightforward? Because it's in the cloud, there is no more worry about having to dial into the VPN for password changes?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft offers a password reset portal that everybody has access to. So you don't even need to have that on-prem. Just go to a web page and fill in your credential details and get a password reset. And
nice.
Obviously you could also call up your help desk, stuff like that.
No.
Self-service is always nice to have, I think.
Well, speaking of that, then the class you were talking about, you've mentioned the class.
Yeah,
We've got another one coming up.
Yep.
Right? Is it
September.
Yep. Okay, so we've done a few of these. So are you both instructing it, one or the other? Is this a tag team effort?
It's a tag team effort.
That's good.
For us, yeah.
I mean, regardless of the topic, we typically always have two consultants on there. I find that I've worked at IVOXY for over 10 years now, and I remember the days of when we had in-person classes. And that's cool because the shoulder surfing so easy, right? Hey, Matt, I have a question. Okay, let me walk over and lean over your shoulder and look at the screen you're looking at. And remote definitely takes a different turn on that. But I find remote makes it where if you've got two people working, from the instructor team, that's a lot easier to kind of sidebar with people while you press forward. The other presses forward with the content.
And one thing that's really cool about doing it all together online is a lot of people run into the same issues. So I just have a student share their screen and we work through the problem together that they're seeing. And that does end up teaching everybody, and it really helps everybody get more comfortable with whatever I'm teaching. Horizon, Intune, I'll be teaching Azure here in the future, Azure Virtual Desktops.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I was going to go back
not
to the
Azure, but yeah.
So the class is September 19th to the 21st.
Yep.
So it looks like a pretty good size day. It does end at 3, which is, I think, a little bit of a breather for people, so they're not completely crammed all the way to the end. Yeah. And then you've got an office hours the day after, right? The 22nd.
Yep. For any questions that may pop up, or if they want some assistance with the labs, that's generally when we do that.
Have you seen people take you up on that?
Yeah, I actually have. It's pretty nice, and they get more. Maybe they had to step away because they had an incident to take care of. We'll review.
Well, that never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we'll get people that'll ask, like an actual real-world question about something they're facing. They've been trying to do an Intune, and we'll try to bump in the right direction. And oftentimes, if there's multiple students in there, a student will chime and go, "Oh yeah, we had that same issue, and this is what we thought of." So it's always kind of fun to really open the floor and let the students and us talk.
Yeah.
And just whatever they want to talk about. So
it's pretty cool that people just bounce ideas off of each other.
Yep. That was one of my favorite things. Again, going back to the in-person class, but the same thing where those classrooms had internet access typically, and we would basically, they'd have a question in the middle of the class, and it would be like, well, VPN in, and let's jump into your environment and take a quick look and see what you're looking at. And while we're not in there saying change, because that is something that we don't want to take responsibility for should something go sideways, there's an awful lot of that dialogue with like practical, this is not just, we're not teaching to a test. That's one thing that I always love about our classes. When I was an IVOXY customer at first, I said, hey, this vSphere class, can I get the VCP with it? And I was at first very disappointed that the answer was no. This is not a VMware certified test. But in fact, it was far better, right? We're not training you to pass a Microsoft Intune test. Yeah. We're training you and teaching you to talk about practical, conceptual and day-to-day concepts so you can do your job better and embrace, like you said, Ryan, I can do this too. There are so many things where, we design a solution, implement a solution with a customer. For me, and I know that my colleagues here, I like knowing that I've if cleaned up a project, completed it, and that user is way empowered to take that very significant spend, right, and take advantage of it, get use of it, not just scratch the surface, not just check the box, but hey, this is why these companies develop these features, and your workflow could benefit from it. Let's implement that, and it's all about delighting customers and getting things done and improving. Yeah. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I got to say, developing a class is no simple task, and I see some smirks there. I mean,
this new one's going to be fun. Yeah,
I mean, to that effect, I mean, our customers have fire drills to put out. We have fires that are maybe coming from a different direction, but we still all the same. We've got customers who need help or calls to get on, and I don't know about you all, but I'm really awful at chipping up my day into jumping around from A to B. It's something that I've had to try to get better at, but like that programmer's mentality where you ramp to your efficiency, and then you have a meeting and it goes to 0. And it's not like when the meeting's over, you're back to 100. You have to ramp back up again, and I'm guessing class development is probably similar.
Yeah, and hopefully you could hit a stride and not get interrupted, and then that's difficult to resume sometimes.
I feel like do not disturb is a cruel you're kidding yourself. Somehow a notification is going to come through by some channel.
Yeah, it's either work or the kids on the door needing their Barbies fixed. So right away. And so I got to start. Where was I at?
I got a 21-month-old who will hit the office door and go, Dada. And,
wait till the notes slide underneath the doormat. That's when they can write, and then they're like, please hope me. Like, oh, you did a pretty good job of that.
Well, that'd be good for you. It seems like you've taught them some manners if they just kind of quietly slide it under.
That's after ignoring the door for 5 minutes, though. So that's okay.
Very nice. Well, so IVOXY has a lab.
Yep.
Does this play there, or are we talking full cloud with this kind of stuff?
So we're using our lab. We can use the Azure lab also, but we're using our lab just so that we could show that it doesn't have to be a cloud device if you want to manage these. We're doing this on our own VMware-backed infrastructure. These machines aren't domain joined, so it makes it a lot easier to do that.
I like that answer, by the way. I think I go with the Ian Malcolm reference in terms of they're so consumed with whether or not they could. They didn't stop to think whether or not they should. and that goes to cloud for me. And so from that standpoint, right tool for the job. I think talking about a cloud-based solution, while not necessarily marrying yourself to it or just showing that flexibility, like, hey, we don't need to completely be living, because so many of our customers are having a conversation about that journey, but not having that journey just yet, right?
Yep.
They're consuming some SaaS-based apps, M365.
Yep.
Intune, I find, is maybe one of the more blendy things, right? It's a cloud-based service, but oftentimes you're managing on-premise devices or devices that access both resources.
Yep.
As a little side note, are you guys seeing an awful lot of SharePoint document library, OneDrive? I mean, what do you call it, right? M365 file shares.
I think it depends on what you're trying to copy over, but yeah. We do see that. That's obviously part of the end user type stuff.
Yeah. The next thing that happens is, well, great, I sent my user home with this cool new Intune managed laptop, but what do we do about their files? Well, we can transition them into OneDrive with some scripts and some SharePoint migration utilities so that they have access to their same My Documents in their OneDrive, whether they're on that laptop in Atlanta or at the office in Seattle, or maybe on a VDI desktop.
All of that can follow
Azure
you.
Virtual desktop. Yep.
Theoretically could also, if you've got a robust infrastructure on premise, you theoretically could do like certificate-based automatic VPN tunneling too. I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah, and you can push all of that through Intune, which is awesome.
You guys ever done that on a like an iOS device? Have you set that up?
I accidentally, I'll admit, set my own personal device playing in my lab to VPN Edge back through. And it worked well. I just couldn't.
Amazing.
I was just like, oh, this is great. And then I got the not a bill. I was like, oh, where'd that $1.43 come from? That was kind of unexpected, but it worked
that's
great.
Not a bad place. That's not a bad place
No.
for the decimal point to be. I think some
Yeah.
other people have seen the decimal point move a few digits.
Yeah, I guess I lucked out. Hindsight. So
Before I came to IVOXY, one of the last things I was doing was toying with that. Was a certain. I think we had a Cisco ASA on the edge, and we were using you might have heard of this, guys, an MDM called Mobile Iron.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So we were using Mobile Iron, and that at the time, at least, I swear Mobile Iron was like 5 guys out of the Netherlands or something. It was, you could tell whenever you'd open a ticket, you were getting the same crew, and they were going back and forth, which I could appreciate too, by the way. That's not a knock. But we were using that to do our MDM, which at the time was fledgling, right? You're talking 2009 to 2011 or so in that time frame.
So BlackBerry was in full force then too.
The BlackBerry certainly was. It was starting to choke a little bit, I think, on its some last gasps. But yes, and I remember doing the on-demand certificate-based VPN because you can't. I mean, you could, but it basically is network-based and domain-based. So you can say if you're reaching these IP ranges or these subdomains, try to go down the tunnel, and I guess you could prompt for a password, but at that point, the people wouldn't use it or whatever. So at that point, it's all cert based. We'd push the certs out based on the MDM profile, and it's basically seamless split tunnel VPN to the resources you need on premise, and then hey, internet for everything else, which worked really well. I can't imagine it's only way better and seamless now at this point.
Yeah. And with the Intune, you can rely on Microsoft's other pieces like conditional access and whatnot to really judge whether or not that device is compliant with your policies and if they should have that data, what they can do with that data on both a company-owned and a BYOD device. Can't copy in, can't copy out. You can control all of that. So
yeah, and one thing that's also really cool about Intune is it has this service called Autopilot, which you could pre-configure these VPNs with all of the different settings on a profile by profile basis if you want. So if your sales team needs to have a VPN when they first enroll their device, we could have that pre-configured, everything pre-configured for them. So they don't even have to do anything really.
So so they call it Autopilot.
Yep.
I want to dive into that a little bit more. What's the difference between, okay, let's go old school, a group policy object on this OU?
Yeah.
Right? So you're in the accounting OU or sales OU, and it's got a GPO link to it. Mm-hmm. Is Autopilot basically just the fancy word for that, or is it a little different?
Well, Autopilot's kind of like initial device enrollment. So when they first set it up, you have that. But then there's also those conditional policies, which are essentially group policies.
But it's a sign-in thing. It's not bring it in and get...
Yeah. Depending on your ID.
Oh. So imagine a world where you call your favorite vendor. I'll go with HPE because I like HPE. And HPE, Matt needs a new laptop. He's starting in a week. And HPE sends you a laptop. And when you open that laptop, it just says, welcome to acme.com or welcome to IVOXY. And we say, hey, Matt, here's your username and password to sign in. You sign in very first time. This is a brand new laptop from HP. And it says, hey, welcome to IVOXY, getting things set up, getting things started, encrypting your device.
So your bare metal steps are 0.
Yep, your bare metal steps are 0.
Yeah,
and next thing you know, you're logged in, your Outlook is fired up, your OneDrive is now syncing no files because you're new, or all your back files because you lost your laptop. And then 4 months from now, if you dropped your laptop, hopefully all that is in OneDrive, and we could send you a new laptop, or maybe something happened to that laptop. We could remotely wipe it, refresh it, whatever you want. And all that's done through Autopilot by just working with your VAR, or your help desk can basically take this hardware ID and put it into Intune. So when that device sees the internet, it automatically registers and goes, oh, hey, that's me. Maybe you have a choice of sales or marketing or whatnot. You can pick your category. Those apps will come down. Maybe you need other apps. You can have other apps in the company store that you can go and pick. Hey, I need this specific one. So, it really is meant to some setup up front, but to really empower the user to get what they need and make it easy for them just to log in and begin working. Because that's what we want.
Well, I love minimize the bare metal steps, for lack of a better term.
Exactly,
so I have a customer that we build these pods for, and it's great because it's a NetApp storage array, a couple of hosts, and the configurations are the same, save for the IP addresses based on the location that these are going to. It's meant to be templatable, cookie cutter, and it works great. I leverage Ansible for the NetApp configurations, setting up the right snapshot policy, setting up the volumes, the lifts, all of this thing. But there is bare metal to it, right? Because Ansible needs to talk to a network endpoint, and a NetApp out of the box has none of that. It doesn't even have a cluster object to talk to. So, I say unfortunate. It's a necessity, but you have to console into every NetApp, configure the nodes with their initial IP addresses, configure the cluster with its initial name and IP address. At that point, you have a management endpoint to go into from an IP-based location, and it works. But if I could somehow get rid of that that saves compounded hours over the course of multiple locations. I like that. It doesn't matter. All you do is basically open the laptop and begin your provisioning based on your sign-in. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you do labs also in the class.
In the class, yeah. So we have a fully hydrated Intune Azure environment that students log into. So they have a whole bunch of user accounts. Groups are already pre-configured, so users log into that Azure instance, and we grant them access to be full admins. And then we also have the IVOXY lab that users log into that are actually just 3 machines that they log into to do the labs, because there's actual lab work that we have. Set up autopilot. Join these machines to the Azure Active Directory, stuff like that, in our labs, so that they get real hands-on experience to do these certain technologies that we're teaching.
And for the labs, is that still based on the Terraform framework for infrastructure as code that we've spin up?
Yep.
I
set up
like
a brand new one
there.
for it, so yep.
Isn't it great?
It's awesome, yeah. It really is.
It's great. Yeah, my only, well, not only, but one of the challenges around those kind of things is, it's great. Even Ansible probably a little bit more, I want to say the word, really loaded term, supported, in that, like, hey, if you want to virtualize your host, turn into a hypervisor, there are like a handful of options that are really practical that you can go with. Hey, I want to automate my environment. Are there a handful of gorillas in the room, well-supported monsters that are like No, everybody's got their own dog food, and it might be just a little bit different than how this company does it over here. So that's, as much as I'd love to say, Terraform's a thing, and this is how you all should do it. It's so variable that it's just a larger conversation.
Yep.
But I love the smile, Ryan. We've got the fellas who can chat with you about that. Should you want to have that conversation as well.
I thought it was pretty neat that VMware now has Salt minions in their VMware tools now, so that you could manage VMs directly. If you're using Salt. So, yeah.
Only thing you don't want to do through VMware tools is restore a file, large files. That was the thing with Rubrik, where you going off on a little tangent here, but Rubrik, easy to back up VMs, this and that. They also have what's called the Rubrik Backup Service, which is an agent, but it's super lightweight. It's not a problem, but the recommended best practice is back up your file servers with the agent, not just VM-based backup. Why? Well, it's not about backing it up. That's easy. Restoring VMware tools, if you don't use an agent, you restore via VMware tools. How does it inject a file into a Windows file system via just a hypervisor? Well, it leverages VMware tools, of course. That's great. VMware tools has a bandwidth throughput for file operations like 1.5 megabits a second.
Oh, no.
So I've got 8 terabytes on that file server. I got some big ISOs. I got some bin files or whatever, and I'm going to restore it. No. So why is it going so slow? What's wrong, Rubrik? Well, it's not Rubrik. So if you restore via the Rubrik Backup Service, it's its own channel, not restricted to that bandwidth, but just a little wrinkle there.
VMware's got their own T1 into the infrastructure that way.
The T1? Someone coded that back in like 1996 and just forgot to change the zeros at the end. Yeah. Well, I'm excited, guys. I mean, this is it's a little over a month away. How many spots are in it? Like a dozen or so, or
8 8 to a dozen, probably.
8 to a dozen, typically. Yeah. So, I mean, I anticipate that's going to fill up over the next few weeks pretty quickly. So, if y'all are interested in getting registered for the Intune class, it's 3 days plus another half day of office hours after that. They're allowed access to the lab for like another week after that. Is that right?
Yep.
Still doing that? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is great. So if you're interested in the Microsoft Intune class and enrolling in that, reach out to your account manager. If you do not have an account manager and you're hearing this and you're really not familiar with IVOXY, Ryan, Aaron, myself, we're all willing to hop on a call, quick Zoom, chat with you if you got additional questions. So please just reach out. You can reach out at podcast@ivoxy.com, info@ivoxy.com. They all get to somebody. So Ryan and/or Aaron and/or Matt.Yette, because I'm like the 18th Matt that's ever worked here. We've got 3 currently that work here. So I don't have Matt, unfortunately. That goes to Mr. Cozzolino. But if he's back from his boat, he'll answer that email as well. But no, that's cool, guys. I wish I had some time to jump on that as well. If somehow, by some stroke of miracle, I have availability, I'd like to kind of poke my head in as well. So don't mind if I stick my head around the corner and, hey, guys, how you doing? But yeah, I'm excited for you both. It's really, thanks for putting this offering together. I'm sure you guys hear it a lot. Intune is a hot topic, and it'll be good to get some expert guidance from 2 experts.
It is the future of Microsoft management. Yeah, so.
Yep.
I like it. Well, Aaron, how do you feel? You made it through the very first podcast episode.
It's just, it's easy to talk about something that's fun, and it's fun to learn it, because even in class, you're like, oh, they added a new feature in here. Look at this. Let's go see what it does. Yep. Oh, we can't make it filter that way. Let's make a dynamic group. So, it's fun to talk about something, learn something even that you enjoy. So.
And so is the cloud, right? Where you'll read Microsoft documentation that was updated last week, and it's already, well, this is not true. I just saw something that contradicts this. It's changed already.
And even even in the class, the students will bring stuff up. You're like, oh, that's new. Didn't know that. That's awesome. Yep. Let's take a look at that. So. Yep.
I mean, I am waiting for the person who really can claim honestly, I know every single feature set about that platform. It just doesn't exist. It's about.
I've met the people, but it was never true. So
it constantly changes.
Show me that person, I'll show you a liar.
Yeah.
Every month, or sometimes even every week, there's new features added, which is just nuts.
Agile development means I'm less agile. I'm pulling muscles left and right over here trying to be agile.
Yep.
Well, gents, thank you so much for joining on this episode of Data Center Therapy. It's been a pleasure to have you both. Again, if you've got questions or want to enroll for the Intune class, hit up your account manager or hit us up at podcast@ivoxy.com. Aaron, thank you. Very well done. Thanks, Ryan, Matt. Again, as always, very well done. Good chatting with you both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody out there. Aaron. Have a great day.
Yep. Bye-bye.